Hello and welcome to Just In. I'm your host, Adriana Lamar, here with Sammy Wells and Tommy Scott. As we do in every show, if you haven't already clicked the like and subscribe, we'd like to ask you to do that right now, somewhere near the bottom of the screen. But we got a good show for you today. It's been little bit of a break, but we got some great topics, starting with Amari Cooper leaving the Cowboys. What is this about? But we will get to that in just a moment, right after these messages. All right, let's dig right in. Amari Cooper has left the Cowboys. Sam, I know you're heartbroken. I don't actually understand it. So why don't you take us into the ins and
Well,
outs
well,
of this
just but
transaction?
but just before Sam gets started, just Jonah, I just want to point out, don't feel bad that you don't understand it because a lot of people just didn't see this one coming. Kind of like that the pass in the playoffs, with the sun was in the. It's one of those things. That's all. Go ahead, Sam.
Okay, so we're talking about business, business wise. Okay, everybody's going to say that it makes sense, but to me, it does not make sense because I see my Cowboys going into a disaster. I remember at the time that there was a certain receiver named Des Bryant that was on the Cowboys. He was coming up on a contract there where he was going to be getting paid too. They end up letting Des Bryant go because him and Dak were not able to do the same thing that they were doing in 2016, where they went 13-3 and got to the playoffs. Okay, so the Cowboys without Des Bryant went 3-5. So they went out, got Amari Cooper from the Raiders, and then life came back into Dallas. Dak had a number one receiver. He had a great receiver that he was throwing to that was actually that actually took the Cowboys into a playoff spot. Now, um, somehow, reportedly or allegedly, Amari Cooper, after the 49er disaster, said that Dak Prescott was a black Kirk Cousins, just and basically saying that he couldn't get it done, as we have discussed on many episodes on this show. So that was one alleged report that happened. And as far as the connection, never have I heard in Amari Cooper's entire career where he was going through the press, saying, begging his quarterback to get him the ball. So now there's a report that him and Dak are going through, there's some situation of going through. So this is the second receiver that Dak Prescott has had problems with getting the ball, or something is going on in the locker room where he's having a problem with a receiver, and then the Cowboys let them go. My thing is
Sort of
this.
sounding like a serial dater, it's so great in the beginning, but it always kind of like fledglings out towards the end, and we got to start all over. And
Well, I'll say this: Dak Prescott is on the clock right now. If he does not deliver a Super Bowl or even a conference championship, he needs to be gone um, from Dallas. He needs to be gone because you can blame it on the receivers. You can blame it on the receivers, but Dak played like crap in that 49er game. He been playing crap ever since the the Patriots, after the Patriots. He came back against sorry teams like Atlanta. We're not going to give Atlanta any credit because they were garbage, and was not playing to the best of his ability. It's time for the Dallas organization to stop looking at the receivers being the problem and the quarterback being the problem. Now, if
I
this is the
mean, isn't
report,
that going to be a little difficult given they just gave him $40 million?
well, I'm saying this. Reportedly, they said that there's some
I'm just saying it seems like they're all in with him. They're not trying to look at him right at this
Well, they're
moment.
all in. Yes, they're all in. That's the reason I say he's on the clock. He has 3 years. His contract was 4 years, 160 million. He has 3 years to bring a Super Bowl to Dallas, or he needs to be out. And if this report of him and Amari is not true or anything else, why is it that Dak is not speaking up as far as you getting rid of his number one receiver? Amari Cooper is still good. It's still good. One of the best route runners in the NFL as far as receiver. He had a down year. His dependency is on his quarterback. And if anybody looked at that 49er game and Kurt Warner did, he broke it down on YouTube from you can check it out. It's 30 minutes to 45 minutes of key things that Dak could have did differently in that game. Where he could have got it to his receiver, even got it to Amari. And Dak, you didn't hear all this all season. You only heard about them releasing Amari Cooper or trading Amari Cooper. And Dak you didn't hear any report about Dak saying, hey, what are you guys doing? Why are you getting rid of my receiver? I would think you would be fighting to keep your number one receiver. You're going to depend on Michael Gallup, who's injury prone. He's been injured. He got injured 2 times this season, 2 times. And you're working out a deal with him, receiver that's been injured 2 times in the season. And then you're dealing with CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, I would say, was depending on Amari because most of the coverage was watching Amari so that CeeDee Lamb can be able to get open. If you're depending on CeeDee Lamb being a number one receiver, he is not ready. And he has CeeDee Lamb, and he would tell you himself because he said this on what's the show called? Some show on Fox. Speak for Yourself. Said that I had a lot of drop passes. If there was if he was in the NBA, he would be the number one player that would smoke a layup. If they were counting that in the NBA. So it's just strange to me that none of his teammates spoke up, which, I always hear Dak talk about in his press conference. Oh, well, I love the brotherhood, this team's brotherhood, and we have each other's back. Where were you when they were getting rid of Amari Cooper? Now he's going to Baker Mayfield. And if I say this to Browns fans and everything, if the Browns get to the Super Bowl and Amari Cooper was the reason why, Dak needs to be gone.
What do you think, Tommy?
Well, yeah, I would imagine that given the investment being all in with Dak Prescott, the reason why he hasn't said anything is because he's probably on board with it and kind of said, yeah, I agree. Whether he's really on board with it or from a stance of he's basically told you're going to be on board with it, he's accepting, the outcome. The other thing to think of though is like the issues they
Piss off
had over
Jerry.
the season. Yeah, well, don't piss off Jerry, but they also had, the issues with the COVID stuff and all that kind of came in there. And, I know that, when you look at that and you look at like, for instance, don't piss off Jerry, right? Jerry doesn't like, Jerry really doesn't like guys that don't put, the team and him first, right? Regardless of how you feel about whatever, when something comes up, you put the team above all else. And I will say this, if Amari Cooper was more outspoken about, anything that he felt, anything they're saying behind the scenes, they'd have cut him mid-season. Jerry's thing was, okay, you kept quiet, so I know how you feel, but you didn't make it public. So let's see where this goes throughout the season. And then he thinks about it and says, you know what? Either he's got plans to acquire another receiver, he's got options in the draft or whatever, where he thinks that's going to help him out. But I think it comes down to that. and it's that reliability. I mean, the other aspect of it too is, and I saw parts of Kurt Warner's breakdown, but um, I think the other thing too is one of those, like, when you look at it, some of the strengths of Dak, where he exists, where he excels, and the strengths of Amari don't completely mesh. You know what I mean? Where it's like there's those situations where you try and get them in because not every quarterback can make every throw. And so you get stuff where you're like, oh well, the guy's wide open. Why didn't he throw it? Well, that's because that's not where he's looking. That's not what he's after. I think the bigger thing, receivers are not. The Cowboys are going to have to figure out a way to get Dak more comfortable, right? Because you talk about the Niner game and the disaster that was. Well, you know what? It was the first, maybe second. No, I think it was the first. It was one of the first of the second series, when the Niners defensive line started teeing off on him. And if you watch the rest of the game, he wasn't necessarily running completely scared, but there are times where he's pull the ball down, drop your eyes, and start running, and he's got another second or so before he needs to do that. And where when he's on the move like that, his eyes are up. But in that game, he had a lot of time where he just felt, I'm uncomfortable. The ball comes in, eyes goes down, he moves, and while he's doing that, he's missing what's happening down the field, where he can then kind of jump in and look out and say, I'm moving, but I see what's about to happen. And so when I get here, I can get the trajectory and everything right. By the time he sees that, it's too late. Um, so I mean, that's one of those things where it's like they got to get him out of his head. And I don't know if it's the ankle thing, the leftover from that, but in a lot of the games this season, it's like if he's getting harassed, it's really that the eye is dropping where he stops looking downfield. He's still dangerous on the run, right? Where the where problem he comes in is as soon as he's uncomfortable, the eyes come down. Once the eyes go down, he's moving and then looking to run. And if you kind of compare that to another quarterback that had offensive line issues and basically spent a lot of season running for his life with Russell Wilson, which we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Russell Wilson's eyes are always downfield. And it's like when he starts to run, he's still looking. That's why he's so dangerous, is because he's feeling what's going on around him, but seeing what's going on down the field. When Dak gets flustered, he's flustered. He's not looking down the field. He's not trying to just feel what's going on around him and play. And if
Yeah,
you're
that's
a
definitely the
receiver,
feeling is when Dak starts running, he's going to be sacked and he's going to lose yardage. I mean, that's just the feeling behind it. It's like, oh man, before the play's even done, you're like, oh shit.
hmm and and to be honest with you, I mean, it's what I don't know. It's probably not something they could do, or something they might try and do is, with that, one of the things that would help him out is to have a monster tight end. I mean, one of those like top tier tight ends. It's like, honestly, rather than getting a big name wide receiver, I'd be looking at getting a big name tight end, like one of those top three tight ends in the NFL situation, because that's going to help him out. Because now when he's flustered, he's got a big target that's close to him that he knows he can get to. Um, and that's I kind of look at this one here with Amari Cooper as one of those, like, yeah, it's on paper, I don't think it's the best decision, right? But I think it comes down to how they felt longevity with just how things were going to mesh together. And the truth is, if to be honest with you, the other side of this, right, is you could look at it and you could say, well, if you're actually you're banking everything on Dak Prescott, so you're getting rid of Amari Cooper, right? Well, the flip side of it is you're already all in on Prescott, and you've got Cooper. And if you're looking at Prescott and you're starting to have questions, you can't go anywhere right now, partially because there's nowhere to go right now.
Mhm.
And you say to yourself, you're like, yeah, we got Cooper, but I'm pretty sure if he stays here, we're just going to waste 2 or 3 years of his career. So let's get him somewhere where he can make an impact, and we can get some value from that and put it other places, so that as a team we can have success. Because if you look at it with the way Dak's been playing and with what folks are saying, it's like with the Kirk Cousins thing. I mean, if folks feel that way, as an organization, you don't want to keep your number one receiver around because you're wasting it. You're wasting money. You're wasting his time. You're wasting your time because you're not getting the benefit out of it, right? It's not like you don't have Aaron Rodgers, you don't have Tom Brady, you don't have those guys in there where they can make use of it. So, it's kind of like the year after the Niners, lost Super Bowl to Kansas City. They had I can't remember his name right now, but they traded for they picked up their number one wide receiver, and then they kept him for a couple games and then got rid of him because they knew Jimmy's not really going to make full use of it. Like they know that.
Emmanuel Sanders?
Yeah, they knew that Jimmy wasn't going to be able to make full use of him, so why waste the time and the effort? Try and put it somewhere else. Maybe that's what's going on. We'll see. But I kind of, it's kind of in that realm of like, where do the Cowboys go from here? Because the end of the season really did kind of, at a micro level, show kind of the breakdown of the organization. I mean, and we joke about the sunlight in the eyes, but Jay Jones paying hundreds of millions of dollars for a stadium and saying, well, that stuff is just part of football. And it's like, well, that's why you play in a stadium, is so that you control those things. That's the reason why teams play indoors. They can control all of that. And when you're the owner of America's team, and you act like the owner of America's team, and you dump that much money into it, and your response is, well, the players just have to figure it out, in a situation where, that one play really, really, I mean, absolutely 100% was probably 75% going to determine the outcome of the game in hindsight, where you catch that pass, Cowboys win. It's almost like that type of a turning point. So it's one of those weird spots where I think, Jerry kind of expects people to perform no matter what. And, COVID, everything else going on, it's like, no, you need to get out there and do your job. I don't care if there's, I don't care what's going on around you, sun in your eyes, whatever, all of that stuff. It's like he's not in a matter of caring. And so if he wants the players to come out and perform, and if they can't do that, then.
And the other thing is, if it's not working, it's not working. You can't change your quarterback right now. The only other thing you can change is this. So.
Yeah. I mean, I would say this: if Dak is going to win a Super Bowl, Dak needs to put away all the distractions. Need to put away his the commercials, any charity things that he needs to do. He can pay somebody to do all that. He can anything. He just needs to focus on the season. And I am going to be the big Dak supporter for the next 3 years. I am going to be the biggest supporter for him, but I'm giving you 3 years to bring a Super Bowl to Dallas. If you do not, you need to go.
I'm breaking up with you. All
Unless
right. Well,
you give
Tommy,
me a ring.
Oh, classic.
Tommy, you brought up Russell Wilson, so let's take a break. And when we get back, let's talk about him being traded and his new home, which is pretty close to me. If you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe, and we will be right back.